and little Timmy tells you that he's frustrated that we're late for soccer practice again. Sure, you could leave a little bit earlier next time, or you could buy yourself a family Hellcat, the Dodge Durango Hellcat. Apparently, there was so much demand after the initial limited edition production run that they expanded that run to 3,000. They took a year off and then they brought it back for 2023. Let's go ahead and take a look at this thing from the outside in and talk about what it has been like to live with for the last week. There's a lot of talk these days about range anxiety and superchargers, but Dodge has their own version going on right here. This is the 6.2 liter V8. This is a HEMI with a supercharger, and it makes 710 horsepower and 645 pound-feet of torque. Despite this thing weighing 5,700 pounds, it can still go 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, and it can even tow 8,700 pounds. Now, in terms of fuel economy, it is not great. You're gonna get about 13 combined if you can stay off the throttle, but good luck doing that. I'm getting about 11 combined. The Hellcat Durango starts around $91,000, but new for 2023, they added the Plus and the Premium packages, and those will carry over for 2024 as well. This particular one is a Premium, and it's optioned to about $107,000. Quite a bit of money, but you do get quite a bit with it as well. This thing really kind of gives me Pimp My Ride vibes. I'm imagining it like slammed with tints all over, and I hear Exhibit in the back of my mind. Please don't do that. I mean, it's your car, you do you. This thing is about 201 inches overall, only about 3 inches longer than a Charger, surprisingly, though it does look a lot bigger. I haven't even attempted to get this thing into my garage because it is so massive. 119-inch wheelbase here, sitting on big old 20s. It does come standard with Pirelli Verde all seasons, but this one actually has the P03 season tires on it, but it's actually a little bit narrower than the Challenger, surprisingly. That Challenger I was in a couple weeks ago was about 11 inches wide on the tire. This one's 10 inches. So these are 295 45s and 20 inches, as I mentioned. You can also get the lights out package, which will give you blacked out wheels and blacked out badges all around. And this color here is called Octane Red. Heated, power folding mirrors, auto dimming, integrated turn signal going on, lock and unlock, keyless, touch from the outside, touch on the inside. That is only the front door. The back door does not have the keyless access. And we've got a roof rail delete up top for the Hellcat. Front end here a little bit more aggressive than the standard Durango. We do have the little bit of a hood scoop going on here for extra cooling, as well as some venting up top. I love the contour through here, nice and aggressive. Different style grille through here as well with your SRT Hellcat logo going on. Again, the lights out package, you'll get that blacked out if you want. More cooling down under here, cooling on the sides. This is all real venting. There is no fake venting on the front end here. Love to see that. A little bit of a splitter going on. Full LED lights. These lights are actually surprisingly not great at night. The visibility could definitely be better. They do have the auto high beams, which helps a little bit there, and LED daytime running lights going on in here as well. For the back end here, looks a lot like the standard Durango. It does have these nice big exhaust pipes, and we've got the Hellcat logo, of course, the SRT with the little Hellcat going on. Got your all-wheel drive symbol, Dodge across the back. Again, you can get the badges blacked out with that lights out package. Love the look of these lights, the taillights. They did a good job with that. And this you can open by hand, or you can pop the key out and use the button right there on the key fob with the double tap, and that will very slowly open up into 17 cubic feet of space. And like a lot of 3 rows, that's pretty much hatchback territory in terms of space back here. But of course, then you can drop the seats down and you get a ton of extra space there. There's no spare under here because we are on run flats. Got a few tie downs. You do have a 12 volt going on. You got some hooks. You do have a slot for the privacy cover. You've got a button to close the power locking tailgate.
Say what?
Interior wise here, I can't exactly say my expectations were super high for a Dodge interior, but we are talking over 100 grand here, especially with the premium package and premium in the name of this trim level. So it does have to be at least decently nice in here. And it does deliver pretty well here. We've got these nice Laguna leather red seats. This is going to be your plus or your premium. In the regular Hellcat, again, still such a weird thing to say, regular Hellcat. It's going to get you the black suede and leather seats. But my only issue with these seats is I wish they were bolstered a little bit more aggressively, or if the bolstering was adjustable, it'd be nice, just because you're getting jostled around a little bit more in this car than you would if you were in something that was a little less aggressive. But other than that, the seats are very nice. They're comfortable, they're heated, they're ventilated, there's power adjustable lumbar support, and the standard forward, back, up, down. They are nice seats overall. And we've got this massive steering wheel. It looks like they pulled this thing out of a school bus. I love this thing. It is gigantic. It has giant buttons that are easy to use for your adaptive cruise and for controlling your instrument cluster, as well as the nice big paddle shifters if you decide you want to shift for yourself. Speaking of that instrument cluster, very aggressive with all the reds, whites, and blacks, mostly digital with some analog pins going on and even a digital version of an analog pin. But I like that they put the big tack in the middle. I love that on a more performance-oriented car. And you've got your temperature, your fuel gauge, and your speed always readily available. There is a ton of information buried in here. The problem is that it is really buried in here. So you can only really pick 2 or 3 pieces of information that you can see all the time, and the rest of it you kind of have to cycle through as you need it. But it's got temperatures for everything from your transmission to your intake to your oil, everything you need. It's got lap timers, it's got your 0 to 60 time is in here. You can track so many different things in here. I love that it's all available. I just wish that it were more customizable, maybe a few more spots that you could lay some of that information out so you could see it all the time. Infotainment here, nice and big. It is tilted toward me a little bit, which I like. I don't love all the gloss black around it. Surprisingly, not a ton of dust and fingerprints on the gloss black, but I wish they would have picked something else. But the infotainment here is, it's a little bit dodgy, a little laggy, which is not ideal, but the buttons are big. It works well other than that little bit of lag, and there's a ton of information in here as well. You can adjust your HVAC, you can review performance information, you can change your driving modes through here. If little Timmy is getting a little bit too annoying in the back seat back there, you can pop his headrest down and bonk him on the head. But you can adjust all your safety settings and your driver's assist features, your navigation. There's all kinds of information. In Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are both wireless. I have had some issues with my Android Auto where it looks like it's still playing, but there's no sound coming through. And then I have to switch it to FM and then back to Android Auto, which normally I would just say that's probably a problem with my phone, but I haven't had that problem the last couple of weeks with any of the other cars that have had wireless Android Auto. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. And music from here comes through a Harman Kardon sound system. This is the upgraded audio. If we were in the regular Hellcat or in the Plus, then it would be a 9-speaker Alpine audio system. I don't know that it's necessarily worth the upgrade in a car like this, where most of the time you're listening to the supercharger anyway, but you do have a few more speakers, so it does give you a little bit more of a surround sound kind of feel to it. And as I mentioned, your HVAC, all your controls are through here, but you do still have physical buttons down here, buttons and knobs for heated steering wheel, heated and ventilated seats, all your HVAC controls. And there's even a screen off button. I love that they put that in here nice and easy. And that will allow you to continue playing music if you just want the lights off for a night drive or whatever it is. You've got button to easily access your driving modes. You've got your launch control. There's no standing on your head doing the chicken dance, anything like that, like a lot of other automakers make you do to get into launch mode. Just hit the button right there to activate launch control. Traction control is easy to get to. Your lane keep, you can turn that off really easily. USB A's, USB C's, we've got wireless charging. The charger is a little bit bulbous, and even though it has this sort of rim around it, my phone keeps sliding off the charger. Dodge has hard plastic next to carbon fiber next to leather, so take that as you will. Cup holders here are lit up. That's kind of a cool feature. Console here has a little bit of suede in it, a little bit of space there, and a little bit more space down under with a 12 volt. Got the sunroof here in the Plus and in the Premium. We got some garage door controls going on. If we hop back into the second row captain's chairs there, we're looking at about 38.6 inches of legroom. That's actually quite a bit of space, and there's a little bit of a cutout in the back of the seat, which is nice. But if you are on the taller side and your knees are touching up against that seat, it is hard plastic, so that's not going to be really great. Do have the mat pockets back there. They have their own vents back there. They can control their HVAC from the ceiling. They can control those vents down below. They have heated seats as well with the button down below and that console in front of them. Those seats do fold down. They do not stow and go. How great would that be if you could fold those into the floor? Where's our Hellcat Caravan Dodge? 7-seater, supercharger, 700 horsepower, and stow and go seats. Sign me up yesterday. Those seats also have the latches in them for child seats. So if you do have those latches on the bottom of your child seat that you need to hook into, then you do have to put those in those captain's chairs, and it has the anchor behind them as well. All the way in the back row, you're looking at about 33 inches of legroom, which is very tight, and there are no anchors down at the bottom, just the anchor back behind the seat. So you're gonna have to have something that doesn't require those latches. I wouldn't really put anyone back there unless they are a very small child or you really don't like them. But overall, it's a pretty nice interior, all things considered. You know, all the touch points are pretty soft. There is a little bit of hard plastic here and here, but for the most part, it's leather wrapped or it's some kind of soft plastic. Really a pretty decent interior here. So driving this thing around for the last week, I expected it to be pretty nuts. This is a ridiculous vehicle. It's huge, it's heavy, it's still super fast with that 3.5 0 to 60 time. It does the quarter mile in like just over 11 seconds. Absolutely crazy. And it has a tow mode and a track mode. What other car can tow 8,700 pounds and still go to the track? Like, you can buy a second Durango Hellcat, fill it up with your entire family, tow it to the track, and then track both of them and actually do some damage at the track. Just absolutely crazy. Like I mentioned, 6.2 liter HEMI V8 with a supercharger, makes 710 horsepower, 645 pound-feet of torque. It is not lacking for power, and it kind of seems like that power might be unusable on the street, but actually it's surprisingly usable. I find myself launching from stop signs and stoplights. Sometimes I'll just let somebody in so I can slam the brakes and then get moving, because these brakes, this has the upgraded brakes with the 6-piston. The SRT, the regular SRT gets that as well, but all the Hellcats get the upgraded brakes over the regular Durango, and you need it because this thing is way quicker than the regular Durango. But then you can just stomp it, get up to speed quickly, and then let it go, and it just, the sound of the supercharger makes it much more livable on the street, honestly. Because going fast is fun, but it's more the getting up to speed and the listening to that supercharger really what make the experience. So, you know, you give it a little bit more than 50% throttle around there, then you start hearing that supercharger whine, and it just sounds so nice. And when you pop it into that track mode, I mentioned it has those different driving modes, then the throttle gets super responsive. The transmission also gets a lot more aggressive. There's a track mode, a sport mode, an auto, a snow, a tow, and a custom mode. You can actually, no matter what mode you put it in, it'll go back into auto when you start the car up. It'll kind of try to figure out what mode you need as you're driving. I have my custom mode set, so like the transmission is on track, the paddle shifters are on, all-wheel drive is set to track because you can actually adjust the all-wheel drive system depending on your mode. It is rear biased generally, but you can go up to 50-50. You can set it to 50-50, or if you set it in track mode, then it'll give the heaviest rear bias with 70% of the power going to the back You can adjust your stability control, your suspension, your steering. Even in the stiffest setting here on the suspension with the track setting, it's still actually pretty livable. It's not really a super harsh ride. So I mentioned 70% of the power can go to the back wheels if you have it in track mode, but it actually has a limited slip differential back there as well, which means that it can actually split the torque differently between the two back wheels. Like if one of them starts to slip, it can send more torque to the other wheel. So that's pretty cool. Lots of power, rear bias, giant crossover, kind of a crazy thing going on here. But and it also actually it actually handles surprisingly well as well. You know, there is a lot of body lean. It is kind of a tall vehicle. It is a big vehicle. You kind of expect a lot of body roll. And the steering here, I mentioned that you can adjust the steering. It does get heavier when you put it into track mode, but it's still not like heavy. It's still pretty easy to live with. Not really too many dead spots, maybe right in the middle. There's just like a tiny bit of a dead spot, but that's pretty standard on a lot of cars. It is electronic power steering. Obviously, if you can adjust the steering, it's electronic power steering. You're supposed to get a lot more feel through the wheel when you put it into that track mode. I don't necessarily feel a lot more communication with what the wheels are doing. A smidge heavier, so I just leave the steering in track mode here. For the transmission here, we have a ZF 8-speed automatic. If you're not familiar with the different types of transmissions, as far as traditional torque converter automatic transmissions go, ZF pretty much makes the best one. It is nice and quick without being too jerky. You can use it in traffic, you can use it in performance-oriented situations as well. It really, you know, this is what BMW uses in pretty much all of their performance-oriented cars. Now, in terms of daily livability, I mentioned that it actually rides surprisingly smoothly, even when you are even when I have the suspension set to track mode. But in comfort mode, it is even better. It does have adaptive cruise control, which is a really nice touch here. The adaptive cruise is actually really aggressive, probably the most aggressive adaptive cruise I've been in, where if you set it to the smallest gap, it will get right up on people. There have been a couple of times where I didn't trust the system and I had to brake for myself because that's how close it got. So visibility all around is pretty good, especially with those headrests down in the back. With those up, it's not great, but with those down, it really is pretty good. The only thing is, you do have kind of a big blind spot in the back right side there, so that's something to watch out for. So it is also surprisingly quiet in here, generally speaking. There's a little bit of that engine rumble. It does have a big engine to it, so there's a little bit of that NVH going on, but you do hear the supercharger. Obviously, you hear that engine going. That's kind of stuff you want to hear. At least I want to hear that supercharger going. That's like 90% of the fun here. Stomp the gas and listen to the supercharger. Other than that, it's actually surprisingly pretty quiet. And it will, like if you're parked up close to something and then you turn the car on and you put it into reverse, it'll still kind of beep at you. My only sort of like nitpicky kind of annoying thing with the driver's assist is like if I'm in reverse, then why are you beeping at me about something in front of me? But again, a little bit on the nitpicky side. So this car on paper is ridiculous. When you drive it, it's even more ridiculous. My only issues with this car is, so it is over 100 grand as priced here, starting at 91. It's not $100,000 interior. It's a nice interior, but it's not $100,000 interior. And I've had some issues with the infotainment too. That's a complaint, but for the most part, you know, the money goes towards performance. But if all that money is going towards what's under the hood, it's a blast for a week. I have had a ton of fun with this car, but how often are you taking this thing to the track? Are you using the whole speedometer? It goes up to 200. I think it's actually 180 is the max, I believe. But like, are you using the whole speedometer? Does it get old stomping on the gas after a while? Like I said, it's been a blast for this past week. Hitting the gas, hearing the supercharger, shoving yourself back into the seat is a great time. But when does that start to wear off? You know, does that start to wear off? Do you want more speed? Do you want something different? Or do you just stop stomping on the gas so hard? And then at that point, why didn't you just get the regular Durango and save some money? So that's sort of the only place where, like, I love playing around with this car, but would I want to own one long term? And so that's something definitely to think about. As always, make sure to hit the like and the share and all those YouTube buttons. Those help me out to get into more cars, bring them to you. Let me know what your thoughts are below on this one, whether you think you would get used to the power, get used to the sound, whether you think it would wear off, or if you own one and you're still having a blast with it. Let me know. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.